Good morning and welcome to the Caregiver Teleconnection. My name is Glenda Rogers and I'm going to be the facilitator for today's session. Today we have with us Evalyn Greb, and we're so excited to have her with us. She waved there to you. She's going to be talking about coping with the caregiver role today, and that's really an important role. Evalyn, before you get started on the presentation, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and why you're in this role that you're in right now.
I had to describe my role.
Not your caregiving role, but your role as a presenter.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Evalyn Greb, and let's see, I'm a social worker. I've been a licensed clinical social worker in San Diego for about 50 years. These wrinkles lie, I'm really 29. So it's Glenda.
Yeah.
And, I guess, I wanted to say this morning to all of you that Glenda and I have been facilitating these things for about 1 million years now. And we have learned a whole lot. And we are going to do this program today kind of old school, because I don't know about Glenda, but sometimes I glaze over when there's just a lot of statistics and a lot of slides. And today we want to do it a little differently. And what we want to do is, well, I'm going to start with a story. I'm going to start with the story about the monarch butterfly. And then I'm going to, kind of go into the things that we're trying to teach today, which you've all heard before. This is psychoeducational, and it's really about reinforcing things that I'm sure that you've read, you've heard, you've researched, but it's just trying to put it in a way that it's more personal and practical. And Glenda and I try to do that all the time. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Elsewhere.
We've tried humor, certainly.
Oh, yes.
So let me start with my story. Okay, Glenda?
Go ahead. I'm anxious to hear it.
All right. Everyone online probably already knows about the monarch butterfly. The monarch butterfly has 4 stages. There's the larval stage when they're a caterpillar. There's the pupa stage when they're a chrysalis. And there is the, I missed one, there's the egg first. I missed the first one. And then they become the adult butterfly. And I'm going to do a little comparison between caregivers and the monarch butterfly today. But what we all know is that the adult butterfly has beauty and freedom and connection with all of the other butterflies that it flies with. And before it dies, it lays 100 to 1,000 eggs on the back of the milkweed leaf. So with that in mind, I want to start talking about what the roles the caregiver plays and what the heck it has to do with a monarch butterfly. And I have to use my notes. Thank you. First, we're going to talk about coping strategies. Caregivers have all these changes, just like those butterflies, all their life of caregiving, all their journey. They have many more changes than the butterfly does, who only has 4, but they only live for 4 months throughout their 4 stages. And when they cope, they don't have to think about it. Everything for them is genetically wired, but it's not for us. And these changes that can happen daily or weekly or monthly, and we can't do anything about them. They're totally out of our control. So what we can do is we can think about how to react in a way that's good for us, to be kind to ourselves, to love ourselves, and do the right thing for us. And coping is one of those behavioral tools used to offset or overcome adversity. And actually, most living organisms use coping mechanisms. You think about ants, when they run into an object, they just go around it. Or when it's too heavy to carry, they call more ants. Or think about who else? think about animals and how the ones who haven't survived are the ones who couldn't adapt. So coping strategy is really the way that we adapt to the problems or the challenges or the changes that are presented in our life as a caregiver. There are three major types of coping strategies or skills. There's one that the monarchs do use, and that's action-based coping. And that involves dealing with the external problems causing stress. And, I think if you look at the monarch, you know that they're becoming more rare. They're having a harder time finding milkweed because of the droughts in places like Southern California and Texas. And we know that human beings have also the possibility and the potential to have emotion-based coping, which monarchs do not. And this is really important because it's about the process. It's about reducing symptoms of stress by addressing the associated emotions and feelings. And emotion-based coping includes both positive and negative coping mechanisms. So you can reduce the symptoms of stress, but you can also go into denial or rationalization or repression and try not to see it, try not to think about it. You know that maybe your loved one is getting worse, that they may have to be placed, they may have to have surgery, they may have another fall. But it may not, directly address the source of the stress. And so it doesn't really calm you as a caregiver. There's also harmful coping methods. And that's, more habits than skills, alcohol, other substances, which ultimately result in greater problems, more stress, less loving kindness toward yourself. So why are coping skills so important? Well, to deal with role changes, the challenges that increase on a daily basis. Again, let's go back to the monarch. He goes through the 4 stages, and he's pretty much out of control because it's controlled genetically. But we, on the other hand, we have control. We have the ability to say, is this in my circle of control or not? Can I do something about this, or do I just need to react differently to it? And that's what's so great about having our human brain, our thoughts, and having a neuroplasticity that we keep talking about in these talks in our brain, because we can change the way that we think and we feel. And it all starts, in my opinion, with being kind to yourself and loving yourself and knowing that you're number one. That's what we need to do. And, the changes in your loved one, you can't control, but you can control how you feel about them and how you react to them. And I think it's worse for people who are in the sandwich generation, because they not only have to deal with the changes in their care recipient, but also in the people that they live with, and try to make that all fit together. And it's also difficult when your care recipient changes and you can't deal with those changes. You can deal, what's going on inside of you, which isn't always easy. Sometimes we'd rather just endure instead of evolving like that monarch. So I want to talk about some examples of role-related challenges. First of all, there's role reversal. Sometimes women have to mow the lawn or pay the bills or get the car to the mechanic because their husband can no longer do it, or their dad. They've got to do stuff for their dad that they've never done before. And sometimes men have to learn to cook and do dishes and iron. Maybe nobody irons anymore. Anyway, it's difficult, to change roles and have them reverse and figure out how to deal with it in a way that really works for you, and how to learn all these different things that you didn't know before. But again, you can begrudge it, you can try not to think about it, or you can evolve with it. You can learn, you can feel good, that you're learning these new things. There's also, a lot of issues with sexuality. And we've had a lot of presentations lately on sexuality. And some of them are about inappropriate sexuality. But we had one last week that was about the fact that people don't lose their sex drive when they're elderly. Maybe if they have dementia, they do, or they may be inappropriate if they have dementia. But we all have the need for touching, for love, for kisses that brings out that oxytocin in our chemical brain and makes us feel like we have eaten chocolate and makes us happy. So don't forget about the role of sexuality. And as the changes happen, one of the things that our presenter last week, who was, let's see, so you can look it up on the podcast, her name was Natalie Oliver. She did a very nice job. She talked about having an advanced directive for sexuality, so that in the case one of you, your husband or you, were to become demented, how you would want to react to that, how you would want the other spouse to react to that. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to think about. The other thing that happens is loss of friendships and socialization. We've heard from so many of you folks that when your care recipient starts to get so demented that they're repeating themselves, that they may be saying inappropriate things, that their friends no longer come around, and then your friends no longer come around. And what a loss. What a loss. You've got to keep your friends. You've got to keep those relationships going. And Glenda and I both have heard from all of you. It's so difficult because of all the pressures, all the time that you spend taking care of your loved one. And Glenda, I'm sorry, I'm not letting you read the titles.
Not a problem. We're new format.
The other thing that changes, which is a big role change, is, as I was just saying, you lose time for yourself. What happened to being on the treadmill for an hour in the morning? What happened to playing cards like Glenda does when she cheats with her friends in her card circle? She claims she doesn't cheat, but it's so important to keep those relationships up. It's how you love yourself. It's how you take care of yourself. It's how you make you number one, is to keep that socialization, even if you only have one or two trusted people in your life that you can talk to and share with and feel like they understand what's going on in your life. Socialization will keep you alive. It will keep you going. The other thing is many, I think, role-related changes have to do with the whole issue of what happened to my golden years. I'm overwhelmed. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. I don't want to be a caregiver. I wanted to be on that boat to South America like Glenda was, or on the boat in Greece, except I threw up a lot. You don't want to go on that. Just to enjoy, being older and having some time, to do the things that you've dreamt about all your life. And when you're a caregiver, a lot of that disappears and you lose those dreams, but don't lose them. You may be able to get them later. You may be able to do them in smaller ways. Don't lose your dreams. And don't get unhappy about it. You're doing this because you choose it. You're doing it because you're sowing seeds of kindness and love, which are so important in our world right now. This is going to be short because we want lots of questions from you guys and lots of examples of how you cope. So remember that. So, excuse me 1 minute. I'm going to talk about some examples of positive coping in 1 minute. Sorry.
Oh, she has bad allergies.
I don't have allergies. I have a bad nose.
Well, whatever. It looks like allergies.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay.
All right. So examples of positive coping, and these are pretty, standard. We've talked about them many times before, is education, knowing about the disease, knowing about its progression. If you do that, it'll become less scary. And know about the available resources for help will make you less scared. Knowing that there are people out there, that 2 out of every 5 people in every room you're in are caregivers. There are people who can support you. There are people who are going through maybe the same thing, maybe something different, but more horrid, in terms of not knowing how to deal with it. And you can help them, or they can help you. So don't forget, you're not alone. And you plan for all your circumstances. And the other thing is about engaging your circle of support. And this isn't just your family. It may be your neighbors. It may be people who are across the country. It may be your loved ones across the country. But engage them, talk to them, Zoom with them, call them, let them know what's going on. Many times we have heard from people that, I'm having such a difficult time dealing with my wife. She is getting so ornery and so hard to handle, and her behavior is just out the door. And then my niece comes in and she stays with us for a week. And somehow my wife perks up and she's really social, been social all her life. And my niece goes home and says, there's nothing wrong with her. And it's so difficult for caregivers who are there 24/7 to feel like they're not being understood, that they're not being heard, because living with it 24/7 is much different than just getting a glimpse of it. So that's why you need to stay in contact with that circle of support. Let them know what's going on. If you have to do it, do a journal, do a daily email, talking about changes, or a weekly email to folks. Let them know what's happening in your life and where you need help and how they could help, because that'll carry you a long way. Accepting the situation is positive coping. Again, we may not want what we got, but if we accept it and do the best we can with it and love ourselves at the same time for doing it, then we can get a lot of satisfaction out of it. I think the acceptance of yourself as a limited human being is really important. We've done whole presentations on setting limits, setting boundaries, really thinking through the things that are being expected of you on a daily basis. Can you do all those? Can you really manage all that? Can you give your father a bath? Or is it too weird? Is it too uncomfortable? Do you need to get somebody else in there to do that? Those knowing what your limits are. If you have someone that you're caring for who's heavy, do you have the right equipment? Have there been somebody out in your home to evaluate that? Get some help, get some information on how you can deal with your limits in a very positive way. And I think, one other thing is really talking about not taking what your loved one does to you personally. Many times caregivers have talked to us about this. I get no thanks. They don't appreciate what I'm doing for them. They yell at me. I don't do it enough. They want me to do more. And you're trying so hard. You're giving so much that it feels bad, but we can't take it personally. It's not you. It's the disease. It's not even them. It's the disease. There are pieces of their brain, pieces of their heart, pieces of their body that are disintegrating. And they lose what they were when you knew them before. And that's hard. It's hard to take on, but don't feel like it's your fault or it's because of you, because it's not. It's the disease. Another thing that will really help coping will be long-term planning. People wait until someone starts getting dementia before they start planning. Well, that's not good enough. As you age, probably at the age of 60 or 65, unless you're already ill, you need to sit down and do a good long-term care plan. And you need to not only put in it, what you want, what the other person wants, how they want to be cared for if they get sick, if they get dementia, if they need to go to a nursing home, how they want that to happen, how you want that to happen. The Advanced Care Directive, the powers of attorney for healthcare, for finances, the kinds of things that you need to include in that planning are substantial. And there are many places to help you do it. One of the new resources that I found, and we're going to give you a bunch at the end, is AARP's Family Caregiving Guide. And it actually has lots of checklists and little boxes about the information that you need to leave for a substitute caregiver. And that brings up the point of what happens if something happens to you. What are you going to do? Who's going to step in? And especially if you're providing care 24/7, who's going to step in? That needs to be really clarified. As a plan for you, you need to have all the information, yours, the doctor, the other caregivers, in-home care, or temporary placement. So planning is so important. And you know what? If you do plan like that, then it's not as scary. If you have a plan in place, it's just not as scary as thinking, what's going to happen tomorrow? How much worse can this get? You don't want to be in that kind of a place. Excuse me. The other thing is we need to keep our sense of humor, I think. Well, let's talk about planning. Planning helps us, the earlier the better, understand the illness and its progression. Discuss how your care recipient wants to go. Get the legal advice, not just advanced care directives, powers of attorney, wills, trusts, and your financial means for respite, for in-home care, and for placement. And that's important to talk to somebody about. And we also have resources. You can go to your area agency on aging. They actually sponsor senior legal services. Paraprofessionals will help you draw up all of those documents. You don't need to hire a lawyer unless, you've got buckets of money and want it to be, nobody to fight about it. Get social advice about community resources. And again, we're going to give you some of those. Get that plan written down. Now, it's hard to write it because it changes all the time, but at least the information that you will see on that AARP Family Planning Guide for Caregiving, it's a really good start because it has your doctor, your meds, your, who's going to be the alternate provider. So that's a good place to start. And evaluate placement options. You can go out with your loved one or without your loved one, depending on their condition, and look at nursing homes or look at assisted living places. It may be that you're sicker than your loved one, but you're the caregiver. And if that's true, you really need to think about, what's going to happen if you get a little bit sicker and who's going to be there for you. And do some research on all these rich resources we're going to give you. I would say also learn more relaxation techniques. We get all tied up. We don't do our breathing exercises that we know about. We've stopped doing yoga because we don't have time. We've stopped taking walks and just standing with the tree and breathing the same air that the tree, breathes, that the dogs breathe, that the other people breathe. And we need to take time for ourselves to refresh and re-nourish. And, we've heard from people specifically this very thing. I really enjoy these presentations. I learn so much. I feel like I get so much out of them. And then when it's over, I go sit down in front of the TV and I turn on the TV and I never do anything different. And I would warn you against that. When we finish here, Go online, find a new meditation technique, find a new sport. Glenda does pickleball. You know, we can always do something to take care of ourselves, and we have to think about what that is, what fits in our life, what fits in the life of our care recipient. And you may need respite to get out and do those things. It's always one of the things that people say, I can't afford it. I don't know how to get it. There are enough resources now that you've got to get some respite. You've got to take care of yourself. You have to be number one. So do something for yourself every day and remind yourself that you're number one every day. And if you have a challenging day and you go to bed at night and you go, well, this wasn't good, please figure out how to make it better tomorrow. And that's taking care of you. Now, meditation teaches us that there are bad weather days, but these can be seen as a benign watching of your grandchildren playing over there. And that's how you can recognize you're not in control of it. It's over there. It's not inside here. And so that's where I wanted to take you today and talk about that, about the monarchs and how you, excuse me, I'm lost in paperwork, my own fault. Okay. I want to say, as my final thought, monarchs lay 300 eggs to 1,000 eggs on the backside of a milkweed. And that is their legacy and their gift. Your legacy and your gift are kindness and love that everybody around you sees and knows about. Everybody in your circle of support, everyone who knows you. And that kindness and love is what this world needs. Questions, answers. Tell us how you cope when you have problems at home.
Absolutely. We want this to be more of a conversation, for the rest of the time that we have together. I also wanted to say, if you're near the California coast where the monarchs come in, that would be meditative. I've done that, and watching them is just so wonderful. So if you get a chance to do that, but we all can't do that. Okay, so just unmute your microphone or put something in the chat box. A lot of information that Evalyn shared today. And like she said, you've heard this probably before, but that doesn't mean we can't learn from other people in a different circumstance. Carolyn, go right ahead.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for this presentation. As a caregiver and also as a respite giver to other people, it is so important to think of ourselves as number one, but we hardly do that. I hardly did that. And now, let me put my face to a voice, if you could see me. No? Okay, there I go. Do you hear me?
We can hear you, but we don't see your face.
Okay, there you go.
There you are. Yeah. Hi.
And just, what I do specifically, and I've had to learn to put myself first because I was always the last one. And what I see myself doing is I have to put alarms on my phone. When I put alarms on my phone, I notice that it reminds me, Carolyn, you need to take your medicine. Or Carolyn, it's time to do, I love doing Bible study, and it's time to go and sit down and do your little study. Because that's like my meditation. It's my getaway time. Or Carolyn, this week I'll be putting, Carolyn, go for your walk, just like your doctor said, at 5 o'clock. If I don't do that, I won't do it. I'll go to the couch. And because it's rough, it's sometimes tough when you're working and you're dealing with your loved one, and there's not much you can do to like my mom has dementia, And I believe has to be in the late stages. All she wants to do is sleep. And for as much as I try to, come on, Ma, let's get up, let's do something, let's put you on the phone so you could talk to your brother, even if it's a video and she thinks she's talking to him. But she gets tired. And as a caregiver, as a daughter, that drains me.
Mhm.
So yes, like you said, make yourself number one. That is so important. Right now, I have a respite person. She's with my mom right now in the living room while I'm in my bedroom. And I told her, I need to go and take this Zoom class because I think it's so important. I need it. I need it. And not just for me, I also give other people respite. And then I could also share with them what you guys are telling me what to do. And again, thank you so much. I love these Zoom webinars. It really helps me. Thank you.
I so much appreciate you sharing what you've shared and the sadness that you feel. And I think it's shared with all the caregivers, because watching someone you love turn into a different person or getting ready to die is so difficult. And we need to embrace that sadness and be there with it and know that it's because of our love, and take care of ourselves and love ourselves.
We lose them twice. We lose them when they first got their illness, and then we'll lose them when they leave this world. So it's twice. We lose them twice. So it's hard. Yeah.
And I love your alarm idea, Carolyn. That is really a good one. Because those of us that aren't caregivers anymore, I was, even in our regular life without caregiving, we still need to take care of ourselves, and those alarms work well.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. And one of my alarms for my medicine is a song. And it's a beautiful song that says, it's time, and it's like, you're going to get better. You're going to be healed. You're going to be fine. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta take my medicine.
Is that a rap song?
Yeah, it's powerful. And I'm like, oh, yeah, time to take my medicine. Let me go. And it makes me happy too, because I says, okay, this is just going to be temporary. Because when I don't take care of myself, my blood pressure goes up higher, even if I take my medicine, even if I do. If I don't take my bike, I have to put it in there. Do your 15-minute bike. And then I could check my blood pressure, and it's so much better.
Yeah.
So it's
Good for you.
Thank you, Carolyn, so much. In the chat box, Margaret says, thank you for this presentation. This is my first time connecting. Welcome, Margaret. Are you glad that you joined us? My loved one is still mentally alert and does not want to think about an advance directive. How do I convince her that it's time to take care of this phase?
Well, I would ask some probing questions like, oh, do you want me to make all those decisions for you? Do you want me to figure out when you should die and when I should pull the plug? Or do you want to help? You want to talk to me about it and we can work through it? The probing questions, what if, I decide to divorce you when you get sick? How would you feel about that? Let's talk about how we want our life to go. If one of us gets sicker than the other one, it's really such an important piece. And the planning, it's not just the advanced care directive. It's, the legal and financial issues are so important, just so that you all feel like you know what's going on. You have that sense of control over what you can control, because there's so many things you can't control.
Yeah. Such a good point, Evalyn. They're losing control of things normally the way that diseases go. And you might offer them that this is a time to take control of what the future is going to be like. You can also talk, and we talk about this, if somebody has to be a bad guy sometimes on some of the caregiving issues that we face, maybe have the physician mention something when you go for your next visit about it might be a good time to do this kind of thing. Thank you.
Don't wait too long.
Pardon?
Don't wait too long.
Yeah, don't wait too long. You need to get it going as you can. And we're not saying it's not difficult. It's very difficult. But you just have to keep trying. And I like the probing questions, Evalyn. I think that's a really good idea too. Myra says, I also put everything with alarms, and I also keep notes of to-dos, grocery lists, etc. on my phone because it's too much to handle. Yeah, that's the one way technology is really helping us today. It can help you get organized. Let's see. Minerva had a thought. Margaret, you can also bring in their care team to bring up the advanced directives. Exactly. Sometimes hearing it from someone who's not related may spur them to do it. Good point, Minerva. I like that too.
Well, and that brings up another point. Sometimes families don't agree on what should happen. Sometimes families, they don't want somebody to go to a nursing home, even though it's the best place for the care recipient because they need 24/7 care and no caregiver can give that. But maybe the family says, oh no, because when you get on Medicaid to go into a nursing home, you sign something that says they're going to take equity out of your house when you die. And families don't like that. So one of the ways you can solve that, probably not your care team, but probably hiring somebody like a geriatric care manager or a social worker, a rehab worker to come in and work with the family to get people to come to the same place on when it should happen and how it should happen and why it should happen. Because you don't want someone just dying alone at home because they don't have enough care, or even worse, having them die at home with the caregiver watching them because they can't get enough care for them. So we've got a referral resource on the resources that you're going to get. And one of those is about how to contact a geriatric care manager.
Yeah. And there's also one in there, if I remember correctly, on how to set up that care team also. And so I think that that's an important thing. And I liked that, Minerva brought that up because, you're close to this person, obviously. And it does often take a whole group of caring individuals to make some of these moves when people are in the midst of their disease, especially if it's dementia related.
The other thing about a care team, Glenda, is that a lot of people don't have a care team. I think WellMed is probably the role model for having a care team because the doctors are all on the same information system. They see what the other doctors are doing. And so you can engage them. But if you're not in that kind of a system, if you're getting your care in pieces from different organizations, you can help pull it together as a care team. You can talk to those docs. You can take them the information about what the other docs, the other providers have said, who they've referred you to, home health, an audiologist because you're losing your hearing, and whatever it is, just keep them informed. And then you're making your own care team up.
Oh, absolutely. And including in that clergy, if you have that in your life, friends, it doesn't have to be necessarily professionals,
Right.
although they're a good foundation for sure. And bringing in a whole circle of care is what I like to look at it as, a circle of care. And you can look up that on the internet and it'll tell you how to go about that. Let's see what we have going over here. Margaret said, thank you. You're welcome, Margaret. It's tough stuff. We will be sending out the resources, and there is several pages of them, depending on what Minerva does with them. She may shrinky dink them down. At any rate, there is a lot of resources we are going to be emailing you as a follow-up to this call or to this session today if you registered for it. If you didn't, I had given you our customer service representative number there in the chat box, and you can always call her and get a hold of them. And Karen says also, it's time for me to start thinking caregiving versus nursing home. She's imploding. Overwhelming, definitely overwhelming.
When people start thinking about a nursing home, it's usually a little on the late side because they're feeling overwhelmed and they're imploding. So don't wait another second. Get out there, check out some nursing homes, look at the financial situation. If you find a couple of good nursing homes, talk to them, read the statistics. We put one of our resources, Medicare.gov, and I think ProPublica, how to find a good nursing home, what their ratings are. So do your research now. Don't wait any longer. If you're imploding, get some respite, pay for a day's worth of respite, get out there, examine stuff, take a good friend with you, one of those trusted people that you've stayed in touch with, and interview people and interview the family of people who are in nursing homes and the nursing home administrator, and make sure, like, if you've got somebody who's LGBTQ, that's acceptable, or whatever, maybe it's somebody who speaks Spanish only, find out what your person needs and make sure that nursing home is going to provide it.
And if you're in, talking about resources, if you're in Texas, WellMed does have SOS centers that you can get all kinds of information and support from their caregiver specialist. And that's also included in our resources. So you can look at that, and it even has some where they are and what they can do, which is a lot. Care planning, all of that. They can assist you with all of that if you are in Texas and maybe Florida. I think maybe Florida. Anyways, there, and it's too little for me to see without putting my glasses on.
That's how I lost my papers.
For sure. We are human also. Thank you for your patience and understanding. Does anyone
I have a question. I want to ask the group a question.
Okay, good.
Okay, folks. So your loved one not only didn't appreciate you, they pushed you away, told you to get lost. What did you do?
Exactly.
Karen?
I mean, we've heard this story, haven't we?
We sure have.
Several times, and some of them don't end up very good in the end.
Well,
That's
it makes
fine.
you feel bad.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like what you're doing. Oh, Karen, go ahead. I breathe in and tell myself it's the disease and not really them. Perfect. Perfect. Take deep breaths. Rosa says, I moved in with her. I didn't walk away. I'm now mom's caregiver. Now there's a brave and courageous caregiver.
Well, I'm telling you, because many do walk away, don't they? Yes,
Well,
they
make
do.
sure you're taking care of yourself in the process, because moving in with somebody, it's talk about role changes. That's a
Yeah.
life changer.
Yeah, it is. Rosa had a comment here that I wanted to make sure, Evalyn, that you saw. I'm on the West Coast tapping into all caregiver resources. I'm a caregiver for my mom who has dementia and she needs help. Do you have anything specific out in your area, which is your area of expertise out there in California?
Are you in California?
Yeah, Rosa, are you in California or Oregon or Washington State?
California. I'm in California. I'm in Los
So
Angeles.
we have one of the best systems of caregiver resource centers in the country. So call your local area agency on aging. You'll be able to find the number through the resources we've provided, and ask for the number for the Caregiver Resource Center in your area. They have caregiver specialists who will come out and give you 6 counseling sessions that will talk seriously to your home at no cost. And they will help you with all the legal and financial planning or make referrals for you to get that at low or no cost.
And
So-
so I call the just the resource center.
Area Agency on Aging.
Okay. Let me write this down.
And ask, okay, you write it down. And ask for the number to the Caregiver Resource Center in their area. And I'm so glad you asked the question, because it's all about those resources.
It is. It's about survival. Absolutely about survival, and all area agencies on aging have caregiver specialists. What Evalyn is talking about is step up from that for sure. Yeah, but 211 will give you your local area agency on aging number. You can just call 211 for information and referral. Okay, going back to our chat box. Yeah, Rosa said that she moved in with her. Yeah, that's right. Carolyn says, my mom was very, very difficult, but I don't look at the past and embrace her. Yeah. You got to meet them where they are right now, right, Evalyn?
Embrace her, give her kisses, touch her, tell her how much you love her. It's not that she'll be any less difficult, but you'll feel connected.
Yeah, and I see Rosa also says that others criticize her, and what a shame. What a shame.
Let me get a hold of them.
Yeah, give us their number. I mean, they're not doing the work. Let's be honest here and just put it out there. They're not the ones doing the work.
So easy to criticize.
So easy to criticize. So easy to criticize. So you got to find a way, Rosa, not to listen to that. Tune it out somehow or other. I know that's hard.
Tell it, you say to yourself, it's their problem, not yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're not willing to help, if they don't understand what you're going through, that's their problem.
Yeah.
You're doing the best you can.
Yeah. And you might go, I'm reflecting back. I know that there's some podcasts on dealing with family members, and I'm making an assumption here, Rosa, that it's family members that are criticizing. And there are some podcasts that we have done on that topic. So go back and look for that. Maybe there's some information there that will help you. Let's see, Karen, so glad I'm not alone and feeling a bit more empowered. Wonderful, wonderful to hear that. Together, we can all feel more empowered. If you're out there by yourself and not connected, and connection is so important, you can get real lonely and really down. Michelle, let's see. Margaret, who was this is her first time. Glad I signed up for this presentation. Did not know of the different resources available. God bless you and thank you. You're very welcome. Margaret, come back and join us on other sessions. There's so many.
Yeah, we always like to thank WellMed too, who supports all of this and supports those podcasts online, which is a treasury of resources for people. And as Glenda said, you know, they're all by experts. They're all on topics totally related to caregivers. And you can refer your friends to them. You don't need to sign up. They don't cost anything. You know, take advantage.
That's right. And if you're only a few minutes or at 11 o'clock at night and you feel the need to get some information, some support, that's fine. You can log on anytime, day or night. Is WellMed in South Florida? Carolyn want to know. Yes, they are. Exactly where, I'm not sure. Do you know, Evalyn?
I know you could call the customer service representative and she would know.
She'd be able to tell you. Minerva's out there and she knows exactly where they are. So yes, I do know they're in Florida, South Florida, Carolyn, but I'm sorry, I just don't know the locations, but definitely. Let's see. There is Minerva chiming in. We do have some clinics in Florida. You can always find them through the WellMed medical management website to see the different locations. I hope that's
okay, Minerva, can we add that website to our resources, please?
Yes. They may be listed as Optum clinics instead of just WellMed. Okay, so she's going to take care of that. That will be coming out in our resources when they send them out in the next couple of days. Also, while I'm talking about that, you will be asked for your feedback on how the session went today. And I always like to encourage you that if there's a topic that you need to know more information about, please let us know on that feedback portion of that survey. We're happy to go out and do research and present sessions, maybe topics we haven't thought of yet. Or if you've been somewhere and heard of a speaker that you think would be great for the Caregiver Teleconnection, we'd love that name and contact information too. The more the merrier. There's so much information that people have in their heads, and when we get together, we get to learn about that. Let's see. Anyone else have a question or a comment?
I saw you writing stuff down, Glenda. Did you want to have some comments that you
No,
wanted to make?
everybody has wonderful ideas. And you and I are just potato heads. And so, you know, we've been doing this, I think, really, she said a million years, but I think it's been 12 years now. Evalyn and I have been working together on the Caregiver Teleconnection, and we still learn things that are new to us. And so
Every
I
single
take notes
time, every time.
every single time. And so I sit here and I listen to you, and you are the experts, you are the caregivers, and I'm writing notes. So that's what I was writing down. I do it on every call that I facilitate, or I say call. We started this as on the telephone, and it's, you know, it's ingrained in me because we did it that way long before Zoom, because it was an easy way for caregivers to connect. We've moved from that to Zoom, but also I often say call because that's, you know, in my memory bank somewhere there. I was reaching over here for our calendar. Since Margaret's new with us, maybe she would like to hear about what's coming up on the Caregiver Teleconnection. We have a lot of sessions every month now. It's just amazing to me. You know, we used to have a couple of sessions a month, and now we just have a whole bunch. And here I go again, Minerva. I hope you're out there. Tomorrow's session on Wednesday, the 24th at 1 o'clock Central Time, we have a Spanish language session. And so if you have people that you are acquainted with that are primarily Spanish speakers and are caregivers, this would be a wonderful session for you. It looks like it's frontotemporal dementia.
I can
that's
actually, actually talk about it.
good.
Previously this month, we had a presentation on frontotemporal dementia. The session for tomorrow, which is going to be at 1 p.m. Central, is the Spanish version of that presentation.
Oh,
If you're bilingual or prefer Spanish, or you know someone that would benefit from the frontotemporal dementia session, it would be beneficial for you to sign up for it. And if you need help signing up, just give us a call.
thank you so
Well,
much.
and I facilitated that, Glenda. And what I can tell you is that the woman who presented is not a medical professional. She's a caregiver, and she learned the hard way, you know, how to get a diagnosis, what the symptoms are. And it's a very difficult disease to get a diagnosis for, because there's no memory loss. It's dementia, but it doesn't start with memory loss. It starts with behavior changes.
Yeah.
So if anybody is noticing, you know, extreme behavior changes in their loved one, you may want to listen into that or look at the podcast from last week for the English version.
That's right. Michelle must have attended that, and she said it was excellent. I did not. Really important session coming up too is on Thursday, May the 25th, 10 o'clock Central Time. I'll be back with you. We're going to do a session on disaster preparedness for caregivers. And for whoever asked about Florida, tune in because it is hurricane season. Here in Texas, it's tornado season and bad weather season. And so this is, you know, really an important topic, disaster preparedness for caregivers. And that's Dr. Elliot Montgomery-Sklar and Lucy Barilla. We do this every year. So it's important to tune into that. I keep my little go bag that they mentioned several years ago with my meds and everything in it. I had to pull it out recently, actually, because we had tornadoes in our area. Anyway, be sure and tune into that one. It's a good one for all caregivers, no matter where you live. Well, we have about 4 minutes left. Evalyn, any other questions for our subject matter experts out there?
The subject matter experts out there, I just so appreciate you coming to us today. And I so hope that all of you will learn to be kind to yourselves and thoughtful of yourselves and make it a priority. And Margaret, if you got this number from somebody else, or you got the Zoom from somebody else, Zoom link, you need to call customer service and get registered, because you won't get the resources unless you're registered.
Rosa, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. She had to sign off, so I just wanted to say that because she learned something new today. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've been on with us before, I don't hold people over just because it's not the top of the hour. It's just ridiculous to do that. We're all adults here. So thank you for joining us today. Hope to see you all soon, and please take care of yourselves as well as taking care of the person that you are responsible for. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.